How did you screw with computers at school? https:// instead of http / bypassed the school firewall. I felt like such a badass hacker. Took the Windows startup sound. Edited in 8 minutes of dead air. Edited in 15 seconds of sex noises. Made that the new startup sound. Used an altered version of a JavaScript web browser hack that turns all pictures shown into pictures of French toast. Rotated monitors 90 degrees in graphics card settings. My school district used Macs pretty much everywhere. A couple of the most common pranks. There was a key combination that would invert all the colors on the screen. It was all the meter keys and 8. It was a lot of fun to do this to someone who left their computer unattended and didn't know that. One of the function keys, I think F11, would move all the windows to the outside edge of the screen, showing the desktop. Pushing it again moved them back, but there was an animation associated with both of the movements. If you held shift while tapping F11, it would do the same thing, but with the animation slowed down. The thing is, it didn't matter if the animation had completed or not. The machine would queue up another action for each time you hit F11, but wouldn't cancel the animation in progress. So if you were quick enough and someone wasn't paying attention, talking to their neighbor, looking a book, etc., you could lean over, spam shift plus F11 a few dozen times and effectively force them to watch all their windows slide in and out at a snail's pace for a minute or two. Not me, but I remember at my old school someone managed to disable the H key on lots of the computers. If you were typing and tried to press H, you would get an error message saying like, sorry, but the H key on this computer is currently disabled. Please try again later. Ctrl plus Alt plus direction arrow to flip the screen's different directions. I stopped when I was told that could permanently mess up the computers. I started again in college. Edit. I did this to a friend and she didn't know how to undo it, so she turned her laptop sideways to Google how to fix it. Unplugged mouse from back of computers 1 and 2. Switch the plugs, but leave the mice where they were. Mouse in front of computer 1 is now plugged into computer 2 and vice versa. Watch the hilarity ensue. The dicks that provide me with job security. We would take a screenshot of the desktop as it is, then delete all the icons off the desktop, and then make the screenshot we took the wallpaper. Watch people futilely click on the wallpaper, and enjoy. Our school had a standard wrong password 3 times lockout rule. Given the ed teacher was a stone's throw from retirement, he wasn't the quickest. I think we managed 3 lockouts in 1 lesson. Our school network ran on Windows 4 Workgroups 3.0. Machines were locked down, so you couldn't run your own programs on them. However, we discovered if you put a modified WinPoint file that allowed you to install your own programs in a network drive that came before where the lockdown version was stored, it would use that, and you could install stuff. And that was my first introduction to Doom multiplayer. Somebody threw a Molotov cocktail into the window of a computer lab at my school. It was over a weekend, thankfully, so nobody was there, but it destroyed all of the computers in the room. My friend and I got blamed for it, because the teacher whose lab it was thought we didn't like her, which we didn't. Thankfully our alibi was that we were on a plane flying back from a school exchange trip to Belgium when the damage occurred. There were several teachers on the flight to corroborate our story. That, and, plane tickets. I used to play the hidden Excel 97 flight simulator during my boring ass high school typing class. Jokes on me, because I still cannot type properly. I rendered all the school's computers unusably slow for a day by putting hundreds of millions of copies of this picture onto the shared hard drive, filling it completely. If you had the patience to sit there until your computer logged on, you still couldn't save or do anything. Back when the mice had balls, we'd remove the balls and leave the rest of the mouse. Side note, does this count as neutering computer mice? Soundboards. Holy shit, we were little demons in middle school with those things. My personal favorites were either Arnold Schwarzenegger or Pulp Fiction. When the teacher would ask if there any questions, from the back of the class you would hear in a thunderous voice, "Who is your daddy, and what does he do?" Followed by an eruption of laughter. Also following up any time the teacher said, "That's correct" with, "Correctamundo." If you're reading this, Ms. Jadish, I'm so sorry. Edit. Oh yeah, almost forgot. Some kid found a way to print from all of the printers in the school from one computer. So naturally someone printed 800 copies of a piece of shit to all the computers in the school. Twas known as Brown Tuesday. Nothing malicious, really, just bypassing the security BS and playing a little of StarCraft. It was shit at our school. If you knew the specific computer number you could make it shut down only using the Windows command point eggs. The staff stopped seeing the fun in it when we found the principal's computer number. I just put a bunch of strange messages in autoexec point bat. Every time the thing would boot up, do not look behind you. Or the package has been delivered, it's an locker number, hash of unused locker, or something like it would pop up. This probably shows my age, but we'd open basic and write a little program that went something like this. 10 LPRINT you suck. 20 go to 10. Then we'd edit the shortcut to a popular program, say manuscript Word, to link to this program instead. When an unsuspecting user clicked to open what they thought was a legit program, instead they'd be treated to the dot matrix printer screeching out you suck, you suck, you suck, forever. Only way to stop it was to find and terminate the program. Powering down the printer and turning it back on again wouldn't do it. My high school had a program on all the computers that would allow the teachers to watch an entire classroom screens, take control of them, send content to them, etc. A friend of mine came up an idea to try to use it to prank the classroom, being the /r/I am Verismut 16-year-olds we were. So, when my teacher wasn't looking, I put a USB stick into her computer and copied her SPA program .exe directory onto it to take a look at what was different between the teacher and student versions. Turns out all you needed to make the student version a teacher version was a 25-character license key that was in a plain text file. So, obviously, I copied it and upgraded my client to a controller using all of my teacher settings. We then proceeded to rickroll the classroom on full volume from 34 computers. It was pretty great. At the end of the class we came up with a great idea. What would happen if we took control of our teacher's computer and messed with her? So, we connected to her computer, but she had been watching our screen from her screen. So, for about 5 seconds we see a bottomless pit of our screen and her screen mirrors over and over and over. After about 5 seconds, our PC fans got super loud and then shut off. When we tried to turn it back on it was a black screen with only a flashing underscore in the top left corner. That PC had to be re-imaged by district tech support. Still not sure what caused that. Me and a friend replaced our CS teacher's my computer icon with a shutdown shortcut, displaying a muahaha message for 3 seconds turning of the computer. She clicked it 3 times. Wasn't really the sharpest arrow in the quiver. Not me, but some guy has been updating a games folder on the school's public/h/drive. None of the teachers or tech supports guys can get rid of it or set it up, so we can't use it. No one knows where it came from, except it's been there since forever. It has Counter-Strike 1.6, Day of Defeat, Halo set, a Halo odd stimulator. It actually works. I too have questions. Roller Coaster Tycoon, Team Fortress Classic, Doom, Cotter, Minecraft, Old School RuneScape, Morrowind and a few others. Edit. Like a lot of people asked, I went and looked at the games folder to try to copy it, much to my dismay and others. The folder is now almost all gutted excluding a proxy program, Halo set, Undertale, and Counter-Strike 1.6. I did not deliver, since I don't think those games are why some people wanted a Dropbox of the file. Sorry you guys, not sure what happened, but I'm just as bummed as you are. In 1998 this idiot brought like 5 porn pictures on a floppy disk and decided to open them in computer class. Suspended on the spot. I have no idea what the fuck he expected to happen. Shift plus PRINTSCREEN to capture desktop. Open Paint CTRL plus V, rotate image upside down and save set image as desktop background. Auto hide taskbar on desktop. Right click, view, uncheck show desktop icons. Laugh at random victims attempting to use computer. Moved all of the abacus speeds to one side. I'm older than most redditors. I would always switch the buttons on the keyboards to spell dick or something. Lol. Nicolas Cage Chrome extension. In 200. Point 1. I think friends and I installed StarCraft deep in my high school's file network, accessible on every computer in the building, and we had it programmed to run without a disk. You would still need a CD key to play, but hacked/false CD keys were easy back in the day. We passed out false CD keys to those who knew to ask us. And since it was all on the shared network, you could land from basically anywhere in the building. This was right around the time when computers were becoming really prevalent in schools, not just with computer labs, but many classes now had multiple computers, or were specifically just on computers. So, we'd end up organizing these pretty large StarCraft battles across the school. Even got to the point where, in drafting class, where the teacher absolutely didn't care what we were doing, my two friends and I, huge nerds, if that wasn't obvious, would play some of the jocks in the class who loved StarCraft. We didn't just break into the system to have fun, we also broke down barriers to make life better. Edit. We also doctored a local newspaper article to look like it was a story about how our principal, who was out on medical leave for back surgery after he fell off a roof, was on medical leave because a gerbil got stuck in his butt, and his wife lit a match to look down the insertion tube to try and see if she could see the gerbil, and the tunnel of methane ignited in a small explosion, giving his anal cavity third-degree burns. The gerbil survived, singed, and exhausted but otherwise okay. We then printed it off and passed it around the school. In hindsight, that was a pretty fucked up thing to do. My school had one of those annoying monitoring programs, so the librarian could quickly see what you were doing and take control. And usually the ass would just turn the computer off. Someone found out then, when she started watching a small square appeared in the top left corner of the screen. If you right-click this square you could reverse the control and take her computer over. Someone took over and rather quickly hit delete on the Windows folder. It didn't work, but it helped stop the overbearing watchful eye of the shitty librarian. Windows NT allowed you to specify the network name and we were allowed to change it on the login prompt. I replaced an E with a special character on the best computer in the lab, effectively making it my computer. It had no clue. We pretty much ran the network. It was up or down at our whim. The entire network used hubs, and this was right as routers were becoming a thing, so they were not yet economical. We would shut down the entire network with a repeating ping command in DOS, set to maximum packet size. It was far too simple. We wouldn't usually do it for long, just enough for everyone to think it was a hiccup, and to see if we could. Our computer class was actually really awesome. The assigned modules were easy, and once we were finished our teacher would let us do our own thing. Turns out, our school had an entire computer graveyard. We would go in there, find parts, and build entire computers. Eventually we had a separate network of 8 or 10 machines that we used exclusively for Quake 2 and the original Halo. One day the school came in and removed our separate gaming computers. We were pissed. The network was down for quite a while. I changed the screensaver from liberal arts to liberal farts. I never did anything to damage computers, just circumvent security measures. Using standalone browsers or games from a flash drive, using said browsers and or proxies to get around web filters, installing programs/games in the C root directory, since most group policy or other security measures wouldn't stop something from executing from there, etc. So computer class for most of grade school was nothing more than endless typing classes. She sells seashells by the seashore and other tongue twisters to get us practicing home rows and typing quickly. Absolutely mind-numbingly dull. Sure, getting to play Commander Keen or Wolfenstein after was nice, but the reward was nowhere near worth the effort to reach it, and the teacher would constantly get frustrated with me ditching home rows and finishing faster and accurately without them. So one day, with us both being frustrated with each other, I restarted the computer and opened the BIOS setup utility and started changing random settings to random values. Child me was vindictive. Finally, I can contribute. I was in college, in a classroom, waiting my turn to an exam, which was held in another room. Bored out of my mind, behind me was a PC. I saw a red button that said 220. I say out loud, what does this button do? And turn the button. The button now says 150 and a loud bang and smoke comes from inside the PC unit. I turned the power supply unit from 220V to 150V, which toasted it. The room was full with my colleagues. Everybody looks at me in disbelief. I begin to laugh out loud, not believing what just happened. Luckily, nobody told on me to the professor, which was a difficult guy. We figured out we could make the computer sound like chainsaws by putting a handful of quarters into the CD drive. Then we did it a lot. To the dumbass student who tried to mess with the school computer by shoving paper into the CD tray, don't use paper with your class schedule, full name, and id number on it. Dumbus. Not school, but many years ago, when I was a hapless little shit, I was walking by a couple of computers in one of those we sell anything cheap stores. There was one on an end cap, it was running 95 or 3.1, can't remember. So I logged out, opened DOS and said format C, and walked away. I'm sure I've paid for it over the years in karma. We installed Unreal Tournament on M, and played every recess. One day in junior high we stole all of the mouse balls from all the mice in the computer lab. This was before the laser ones. Literally every single one. The school's solution after this was to superglue the covers on, so you physically can't remove them. This was a problem though, because with those type of mice you do have to clean the little ball sockets from time to time, but with the covers superglued on, that was no longer possible. So eventually all the mice became really crappy and almost unusable. Computers were all on the same network. Big school, 2,800 students, approximate 150 computers on it including faculty computers. We learned the ability to use nets and lab 208 or whatever computer a friend was on, and we could send messages, basically texting. This evolved to we could cheat on certain tests for some of our classes. Never got caught, but near the end of the year, the drafting and design teacher was doing a presentation to about 150 students and someone sent a message to her computer. It popped up on her screen. I wasn't a part of the presentation. I was told the message was harmless, but after that the network admins changed some settings and we weren't able to do it anymore. Was a good run though. Also, removing the trackballs from the mice. When I wasn't doing work, I was playing Final Fantasy V on a SNES emulator. It was my small payback for removing the seniors can leave early if they have no 7th period class option. A couple Chinese kids at my school changed the default language on each computer to Chinese. Ours was a two-man operation. At my high school, you couldn't really do anything serious software-wise without it being found and fixed within a period or two. A friend of mine was clever with coding. I was friendly with the IT guy. Friend wrote a VB script that ran at startup which would pick a random keyboard key, and when it was pressed a certain number of times it would trigger a shutdown with a 15-second timer. Whenever it happened, the IT guy would simply reimage the hard drive. However, after having me do a bit of recon, we discovered that unlike most other IT guys, instead of having the image on a CD, he would pull the hard drive, take it to his workshop, and do a disk-to-disk clone from a master computer using a ghost boot disk. After slightly modifying his script to make it open the CD tray after a random key was pressed a random number of times, we thought the shutdown might be pushing it. He tasked me with getting it onto the master PC. I found my opening during a lunchtime where it guy asked me to help out. When he nipped off to the bathroom, I quickly pulled out my friend's floppy disk with the script and loaded it on the master PC. For about 3 months PCs all over the school were randomly opening their CD trays. It wasn't until my friend and I came clean to it guy that it was found. Because we were brothers with it guy by this time, he laughed about it and told the higher ups it was some kind of software conflict that he'd managed to find and fix. Sadly, I've lost contact with both they friend and the IT guy. Shame, cause they were really cool dudes. Open bracket. Sorry in advance for mediocre English. It's my third language. I think it was in 2004. My IT teacher let me use an old laptop for a project. Inside it was a floppy disk with the username and password for all users on the learning platform we used, including teachers. The rest of the semester I logged into the teachers' accounts, found the hand-ins from the best students, downloaded, made it my own, and handed it in from my own account. Never got busted, but I realized I used almost the same time altering assignments as I would have if I just made my own. Also had some fun with the let me rule Trojan from time to time. At my old school, students had access to command prompt. It made for a lot of fun times. I think my favorite was when someone made a fake Google Chrome shortcut that would open infinite windows until the computer crashed and then replaced real Chrome with it on multiple computers. Put a space in the password text box so when you try to log in there is an incorrect space and the password returns wrong. Changing the startup sound was locked down, but I was able to overwrite the sound file itself with the South Park opening song. You people are what prevents me from being able to finish my coffee in the morning. Damn you all. We had WinXP at school and could only use the guest user to do work and stuff. BIOS was password protected, but it had a floppy secret boot. So I made a bootable floppy, copied command line WinRAR on it, stole some file from system folder. Later on at home brute forced the password for 8 hours. On the next day everyone could log in as an admin and install all kinds of shit. This went on for about a month until someone found out. Techs and teachers were fucking pissed. No one ratted me out though. I was kind of a hero lol. Astronomer here. I installed CT at home on all the computers in the computer lab the week before summer break. I suspected, and was proven, right when I checked my account, that they never bothered to turn the machines off for months. So hey, might as well do citizen science. Back in middle school, everyone would pass around flash drives with games on them until everyone had the game. In this group of games, we had Terraria, Minecraft, Real Racing 2, Need for Speed Most Wanted, and some sort of shooter. I was also responsible for contributing the full version of KSP into the mix. These all eventually got blocked, but not before the tech department started whitelisting everyone, which ironically didn't block the games themselves. Back in my day, most of the computers at school ran Windows 98 and the labs were networked. I did lots of mundane stuff. On desks where the monitors were back to back, a typical go-to was swapping cables. A VGA cable here, a mouse there, speakers, whatever. Removing or taping over the mouse ball. When people didn't know about DOS, rebooting to DOS mode. Editing shortcuts and icons, so that a shortcut would look like it was forward, but would instead go to recorder, character mapper or some such. Once I changed the sound scheme on a teacher's computer, so that every single action played the ding sound. Trying to access anything resulted in a long stream of ding, ding, ding ding, ding ding ding. Also, edited the default Windows startup sound file to one that was 5 minutes long. Abusing the Windows Messenger service was great. At random I would freak people out with pop-ups referencing them by name. I'm sorry Michelle, but I can't do that. Or scary messages like computer system overheat detected. Please shut down immediately etc. Also, changing the sound scheme to place sounds when a message was received and then blasting the work group with messages. Imagine the cacophony of ding-s circulating all of the computers in the room. One that got me in trouble was playing with startup files. Setting computers to run scan diskette boot, running pointless and time-consuming commands in autoexec pointbat. I combined all the computer pranks I've heard at the time, flipped the view upside down, took a screenshot, flipped it back, set the screenshot as a desktop background, created a fake shortcut to Firefox to be a forkbom, basically a bat file that shuts down the computer when launched. Not sure how safe, turned off desktop icons. Flip the view upside down again so everything looked normal, but the mouse pointer seemed upside down and would move opposite, and to top it off I put a piece of a post-it note on the mouse, so it wouldn't work. A bit of an overkill, but seemed hilarious at the time. Got in trouble with my ed teacher. I conned the Bowie to purchase deep freeze, then I scheduled a reboot at 4 AM, so the computers were refreshed every day, then laughed when teachers insisted on keeping things on their desktop, after being told not to. I would occasionally shake the abacus frame, so that the beads were all randomized. Muhammad ibn Ms al-Krizm hated it when I did that. 10 print Kurt Ludwig is awesome. 20 go to 10. Run. Not at school. But at work, I wrote a script that called the Windows Task Scheduler and made my boss's mouse buttons flip around, right button to left click and left button to right click, every day at a fixed time. I did this about 2 months ago, and it clearly bugs him, but he hasn't been able to work out why. Admittedly, I sometimes go into web browsers on random computers while other students are away and change the default search engine to Bing. I managed to install Linux on almost 90% of all computers at the school all at once. There were several flaws in the network that is discovered over the years that let me essentially ruin, to the department at least, over 110 of their machines. Firstly, since these were mostly Macs, I was able to abuse their poorly configured guest account system to gain screen sharing access to any Mac that was currently logged in, regardless of the account that was currently in use. Second, the department set up some sort of program that would read a script file then update the Macs according to the file via single user mode. I think I modified one of the update scripts to point to a Linux image instead of an OS X update. I can't remember what I did, but I think there were specially modified images that will install a default system state silently, requiring no user input other than the parameters for the disk partition when being run in the command line. That somehow worked. So essentially the next scheduled update completely fucked the school by installing an OS that nobody knew how to use. It was glorious, and apparently it was cheaper to toss the Macs and buy new ones than to pay the department to actually reinstall OS X by hand. Whatever, I got a ton of free Macs that day. Unexpectedly good outcome. My computers in high school had a network that linked all computers together. We had personal folders, so we could access and work on homework and things like that. What I did was upload emulators for the Gamma Boy Advance and Nintendo 64 on the public folder, along with tons of ROMs. They later called me to the library because they found games on my account. Turns out, they saw my RuneScape program I used to work around their firewall, but they never searched the public folder. For some reason Halo so was installed on every single point computer in my high school, so whenever we had to use the lab for any class that's all everyone would do. The most memorable time screwing with a computer at school though was definitely in my French class. We went to the lab to do some online work with a partner. However, our class was larger than the number of computers available, so the teacher set my partner and I up on the computer at the front of the room, the administrator computer. I'm sure most of you remember the fact that an admin computer could hijack the other computers in case a student was doing something inappropriate, oh the irony, and control their mouse and keyboard or shut it down. Realizing we had been given godlike powers, we immediately set to work abusing the fuck out of them. It was always just one person at a time, at first subtly jiggling their cursor or erasing a few letters in a document. It finally came to a head when we turned safe search off and forced a girl to watch one guy one jar and she completely lost it. Our teacher was completely oblivious that we were the culprits and sent a message to the principal that someone had infiltrated the school's network. Meanwhile my partner and I got off scot-free. I don't think that girl was ever the same after she saw a man insert a glass jar into his anus and shatter it with his sphincter. Through social engineering I was able to get a copy of the admin tools for the line monitoring software used by my school. This allowed me to view/control all users currently logged in including staff accounts. I used Conboot so that I could install software on any computer I wanted. I had a bit of fun with MITM attacks. Hacked all the printers with LCD screens to leave messages to teachers. Left a message on the vice principal's printer that told her how much she sucked. How the network was set up. If you did a DOS attack on a certain router it would take down the entire network. To prevent students from booting of live CDs the admins changed the boot order in the BIOS and locked it with a password. Well, back in the day all you had to do was remove the CMOS battery on the motherboard for 15 seconds and it would reset the BIOS to factory defaults. Just to list a few.